because he's been very integral in planning it and will have a big part in it. And so we want to get you to talk about it, Hauson. And so welcome today as the person that is not really doing the interview, but giving the interview.
It's a different seat. It's pretty comfy though. I'm not
Yeah,
gonna
you said like I'm kind of
lie.
nervous. I'm like, oh, you're just
Yeah.
going to talk about what you do all the time, so it shouldn't be nervous. And certainly glad that you're a part of it. You, this is TLG number 4 for you, something like that. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So talk about TLG as a whole. What are some of the highlights for you that you can remember back on the other ones that you've attended and participated in?
And yeah, so I mean, I think when I first, before my first TLG, I didn't really have I really heard this narrative that, local government is slow, it's not innovative. And so I didn't know what to expect going into the TOG conference, but walking out, man, it really gave me some hope and really an inspiration of how innovative local government can be. Because this conference is really focused on the practitioners and
Mhm.
sharing practice, like what they're doing, right? And so the sessions themselves are really balanced around, areas of priority when it comes to innovation. So that's technology. Um, one of my favorite technology sessions was around using AI to remove blight.
Hmm.
And, they spotted it was so effective. They attached cameras to patrol vehicles, so it didn't require new cars, and it was so effective that they achieved like 90% compliance in terms of preventing blight, and they were able to use the extra resources to fund education so moving upstream to mitigate it even further,
Mm.
right? Um, Another area is around fostering a culture of innovation. So it's not just what are we working on, but how do we work together? Um, and then there's also research, right? I mean, this year we have the housing crisis. We have research on the housing crisis. We have research on research. What kinds of research are local governments commissioning from the Federation of American Scientists? Um, yeah, so, but I think in the past, what's really stuck out to me um, most is, I guess, two things. One are like the people, and two is the impact.
Hmm.
Um, we did a session, kind of, I facilitated a session on, one of our kind of introduction to foresight tools, the Three Horizons framework. And there was, it was a full room, but and it was only an hour, right?
Yeah.
And one of the people, I believe is from Fort Collins, um, they were talking about how they couldn't unsee it. And we kind of talked about the change of like how change happens, right? And going from a world that was only using candles to a world that primarily uses light bulbs, and how that kind of transition between systems is always happening. And so they were saying they were drying their hands, and they're like, I see it, I see the third horizon. And I didn't know it, but I think part of TLG is it's a continuation of
Mhm.
relationships, and it
Yes.
really builds on itself. Because that led to Fort Collins introducing this framework to their futures committee, part of their city council. So they have like two or three folks from the city council, and they talk about, what are the most important things we need to be thinking about 20 years from now. And so introduce the framework, and they were they're innovative when they challenge when they push back.
Yeah.
It was great. It was great.
Yeah.
They're like, how do we know how do we know what topic to use this on? And I told them anything that is uncertain, long term, doesn't have an answer. And they said, really, anything? And I was like, yeah, let's do it. And they chose downtown noise. All right. I
Mm,
was like, okay, future of downtown noise. Let's do it. And yeah, the conversation went from, these people are the problem, and we've grown so much. This was what we wanted, but there were some unintended consequences for
right.
residents. And it turned to kind of imagining a future where that's really characterized by courtesy, right? Respect for each other. So we can have the noise, let's just be mindful of its impact on other people. That was as far as it went for me. But what I found out later through our friend Will Hampton was that they had brought in that training in-house to every single 320 leaders across the organization, and have now they just use it every day in their language, saying,
Hmm.
that's we know we need to get through this first horizon, right? This current system, but we need to get into the second horizon. How do we do that? All right. And so I think it's at least, from where I sit as, serving local governments, seeing that impact, to have more complex conversations, being able to lift our heads up out of the weeds a little bit and be able to think long term has been um, pretty fulfilling. And I see that in pockets across those three areas of technology, culture, research. So yeah,
Yeah.
my favorite times of the year.
I really appreciate all of that, and especially thinking about culture, the culture of an organization. We've merged the Servant Leadership Conference, which is usually the used to be the last week of January, with TLG because we really feel like that in order for an organization to be really as innovative as it could be, there has to be with that a healthy culture related to leadership, and I think particularly servant leadership, where those that are in have more areas of responsibility see that opportunity as an opportunity to help others be successful and put the needs of others ahead of themselves and the needs of the organization ahead of themselves, and which means that sometimes in innovation things aren't going to work out always. And there has to be the freedom to try that responsibly, to try it and not have fear that there's going to be negative repercussions if something doesn't work out, as long as, proper protocols have been followed and et cetera. And like you said, when you're thinking about the future, it's uncertain to begin with. We don't know. And some things that you try don't work out. But I think that's a great thing that I see at the TLG conference and as a part of AFI organizations as a whole. There's a willingness to try, even if you don't know exactly how it's going to work out.
100%. And there's risk with it, but I love that you brought up serving leadership, because one of the sessions I'm excited about, I think, definitely overlaps with that, and that's facilitated by Craig Freshley. And it's called a model conversation on the stage, and it's really about how do we have effective conversation between people with different views, right? And I
Right.
think where it's really the embodiment of this fusion of servant leadership and innovation is that he's not going to just be talking about how to do it, right? This is not information. He's going to demonstrate what it looks like. So he's going to have people from the audience. He's going to have a topic. People are going to, have a conversation where they disagree, and he's going to show rather than tell how it's done. So
Craig Freshley is the best that I know of at that. I can't wait for that session myself. He's a good friend of ours, and we're going to really, I think, enjoy watching him work and learning from him. And of course, that's a huge issue in our country right now, and will be in the future, undoubtedly. So, talk us through some of the other workshops or speakers that you're particularly excited about? I know there's information out on all of this, but just from your perspective, what are some things that you're kind of excited about sticking your head into and saying, hey, I want to listen to this?
Yeah, well, yeah, maybe I'll speak a little bit um on each of those areas, right? So like from a technology perspective, I've really loved watching the town of Gilbert, Arizona,
Hmm.
um, show up each year and seeing the progress that they're making.
Oh,
The they were because they were the first in the country to establish the role of chief AI and transformation officer. First in the country to develop an in-house AI advisory committee, AI strategy roadmap. They're really a thought leader in this space, and they did that in 18 months.
wow.
Um, and so they're back again, and I'm just excited to see where they're at this time. Fort Worth using machine learning to on something very practical like building permits. So being able to forecast how permit trends might be changing rather than relying on kind of the best guess estimate, right? So I think that's important to have. Even I talk a lot about how forecasting is not the same as foresight, but there's value. There's value in it. And so being able to see a city like Fort Worth and how they do it would be great.
And I love that you're touching on that because you said earlier, hey, this is a conference for practitioners. And when you're talking about issuing building permits, that's a practitioner world right there. This is not all just someday out there flying cars and those kinds of things. This is for right now, how you can dramatically improve processes that are core to the services that local governments provide.
Hmm.
And so, yeah,
Hmm.
the both of those are both great cities. Can't wait to see what both of them are doing. All right, go on. What else? I know there's more.
Yeah. In terms of culture, I'm excited to hopefully I have enough time to see all of them. But I'm excited for the different types of models when it comes to an innovation academy.
Mm-hmm.
Because Elk Grove, I think, is using the Denver Peak Academy model, or at least inspired from that model. I believe Long Beach is really informing it from their 20-year, 30-year comprehensive plan. Um, and there's a more like centralized innovation office function, right? So
Okay.
some are more distributed, decentralized, like let's kind of help each department. Others are more centralized. Others use things like the Sparks program, which I'm gonna have to learn more about, but it's more like let's implement this sort of methodology and get everyone on the same page about it. So being able to compare and contrast and see what can I learn as a futurist, like in terms of what's the kind of best way to get everyone on the same page and have shared language to innovate. So
Yeah, and so like for somebody that's let's go back to practitioner, a city manager or ACM or someone from a city is like, oh, we're just getting started. What a great opportunity for them to go and say, okay, here's how one city's done it. Here's how somebody else has done it. And then what can we learn from both of those to figure out our way that we want to do it? And
mhm.
I've seen that happen at several TLG conferences through the years where you just see the sparks fly, so to speak, and the light bulb come on outside of the sessions as they're talking and debriefing about, oh, this is what we're going to go back home and try and do. And I think that's always exciting.
you know,
All right, so you talk about culture and you've talked about some technology. What else?
yeah, I mean, research wise, I kind of spoiled it in terms of, there's the Federation of American Scientists. They're going to be speaking and talking about, and they've done research on on what other local governments are commissioning research for. We're also breaking out of the American bubble and in our partnership with Babel that brings international cities. So
Hmm.
starting to make that bridge to see, and that's one of my favorite places, as I look for like weak signals and trends of, what's emerging. And typically, I think what people find as I serve, US local governments, what they find most provocative and different is what other countries are doing. So I'm
Mhm.
excited to see from someone who's not me, what do they see as innovative
Yeah.
and different? And
Yeah.
and then a panel on the housing crisis from house hackers, local government folks, facilitated by another futurist, Rebecca Ryan. So I also won't be the only futurist there, which is always nice.
Yeah. Oh, that's going to be super. All of that gets me excited. Talk about let's talk before we talk about I know you're doing some stuff, but maybe this is a good time to remind people of exact dates, location, and how they can register if they haven't registered already. And so tell us about that.
Yeah, so the conference is going to be in Dallas, Texas, April 20th to the 22nd. So it's even one of the benefits I haven't talked about is just being able to meet peers regionally. You might have not met before, so definitely going to be a larger um, folks from Texas, but definitely a national conference. It is there's a discount if you bring five or more people. So
Okay.
thank you, Lisa, for putting that in the chat. You can see. And if you're an AFI member, there's an even larger discount as well. So
Okay.
we're really here to, make this affordable and make sure as many people can access that. And I think it's showing because we're most likely going to cap out on registrations. It's already over halfway full. So, and we have a capacity this year. So.
Yes. Yeah, so we're expecting it to sell out. So as soon as they stop watching the webinar today, they need to get online, use that link, register if they can. It's going to be at the Westin Galleria in Dallas. Great area, great hotel, great shopping right there, of course. And so as a resident of the DFW metro area, we're going to welcome all of our friends from around the country to come. And it's going to be a beautiful time. Right now, we're freezing in January for our 2 or 3 days of cold a year, but by then, who knows? It may be hot, but it'll be fun. It'll be great. So you're doing some things too, Hauson. I know you're doing a pre-conference workshop and then a session in one of the afternoons. Give us a little taste of that. What are you going to be talking about?
Yeah, so the pre-conference workshop is really I guess the best, the greatest hits of Foresight tools, right? And that's all that will help us and an organization become anticipatory leaders, right? Leaders who are proactive, they're confident in uncertainty, they're shaping the future. Um, yeah, and then this one of those tools, the Three Horizons, that's going to be the first one we go in with. That's the one that Fort Collins is
Hmm.
now used across the organization. So yeah, so it's really three kind of core chunks. It's I believe 4 hours, 4 hour workshop, three chunks. Um, Pretty affordable. I mean, yeah, it's less than $200 for 4 hours. I mean, we're just here to serve. But yeah, chunk number one, right? Mapping the future, right? So we want to have an idea of, what's out there today. Why is it not working anymore? What's the future we want? And, why do we believe, how can we use change to actually bring that into existence, right? So planning for the future, not just that we expect, but the future that we want, right?
Hmm.
Chunk number two, this is all about story, right? So transformation through story, using metaphor to change how we view a complex situation, right? So um, when there's a case study, I think it is like Stanford or MIT, but they basically asked two groups and provided them the same data, right?
Hmm.
So city, I think in this case it was Addison. City of Addison has 50,000 counts of crime every year. It's just hypothetical. They small paragraph. The only difference was kind of the first phrase, which is crime is a beast. So crime is a beast. City of
Hmm.
Addison has this many cases of crime every day or every year. What's the policy recommendation, right? And oftentimes it'd be, well, we gotta lock up the beast, right? Very natural. And the second group, only difference they had was crime is a virus. Same data, what's the policy recommendation? And they're like, oh, well, we got to find the cure. We got to find the root cause. And so it's not to necessarily advocate for any specific kind of solution, right? But
Hmm.
what it does is help us expand our options around how we're thinking, right? And yeah, so that's really to help us deepen the future because oftentimes the future that we want is more of today. So how do we like genuinely rethink the future that we want in a way that links what we measure, the systems that operate it, the culture, and the deep underlying metaphor, right?
Hmm.
And man, I can nerd about this all day, but the last thing I'll say about this chunk is I asked a city manager once, what's your metaphor for your city? And he said Titanic, right? So metaphor gives you the most amount of meaning in the fewest words, right?
Yeah.
And so you could really just use that at that level, right? Like, oh, what is your metaphor for this situation? Who are you in the story?
Yeah.
It really helps unlock more than just the actions, right? It connects that with culture. Um, Last chunk is okay, so we've dreamed about the future. Now, what do we do now? How do we act, right? And so that's scenario planning, really making it tangible 10 years in the future, and then backcasting from those scenarios,
Hmm.
right? So instead of thinking, it's really start with the end in mind. I think that's the wisdom there with with a structured approach. So we're excited for that. We've got yeah, we've got a room pre-conference 8:30. So if you're planning on coming to this, arrive a day early, get your learning in. Um Afternoon, and then on Tuesday afternoon, that's really where we do the most cutting edge stuff. Um, last year we did the post-normal city game where um we gave everyone the scenario of there being a mega drought. And so each person, they designed a city, each table designed their city, about 10 people. They all had different roles, right? The business leaders, entrepreneur, public works, city manager, residents, even nature. That someone
Hmm.
was a river and they couldn't talk.
Hey, but the river always wins. Let me just say, the river always wins.
Yeah. Don't have the river, then everyone loses, right? So,
That's right.
and then what they did was they had a certain budget of water, and every 5 years they would have to cut. And so it was kind of this negotiation exercise of, who's going to lose water because everyone has their own needs for water. And as they're negotiating, we hit them with disruptions.
Mhm.
Like, what if your population size doubles because of climate migration, right? What do
Mhm.
you do then? And that increases the amount of water they need to save. Um, and it was compelling enough that we had one person, one strategy innovation director from Decatur wanted to be mentored in Foresight, and they've started using that transformation through story metaphor tool in their own employee conference, and now they're bringing over 20 people to TLG this year
Oh, that's
because of
awesome.
how compelling the stuff
Yeah.
is. So,
Yeah. Oh man, that's
yeah,
super.
yeah.
Uh, so let's kind of pivot from there because we're about to run out of time and want to honor your time. So much I'd love to dive into about metaphor, but I'm going to pass that up. You and I can talk about that later. But let's say I'm a ACM or maybe a city manager, and I'm thinking, I don't know, should I register? Should I not? Should I take a team? Should I not? Give us your pitch. Like, why should they do that? And like, what should push them over the edge and say, "Yep, I'm gonna go ahead and do that."
Yeah, I would really, in my mind, I would really reflect on how are your high performers doing.
Hmm.
Um, they're probably performing well, but how do you want to retain them? How actually connected do they feel to the organization? One of the themes that I've seen from TLG um, participants is that this is a great way to invest. It's like they find some organizations even have scholarships. They have people
Mhm.
apply within the organization, and they'll say, like tell us what you've done and why what you'll want to learn, and feel free to, and we'll see if we can give you a scholarship. But I think TLG is the perfect way to invest in your high performers and retain them.
Yep.
And not just this isn't just upskilling, this is relationship. This will re-energize them and give them a community of the best and brightest that they will have moving forward. So it's not just this one conference, but this is ongoing.
Yeah, I know I've talked to several managers that have made it their practice through the years to take a different group of people every year to TLG. And when we first started working with Alliance for Innovation, one of the things we heard over and over was the TLG means so much to us. And I think you really have to experience it and maybe experience it more than one time to really understand why it's been such a love brand, if I could say it that way, in local government. It really means a lot to so many people. And I can't wait to see everyone at this year's conference and renew some old friendships, make some new friendships, and hear a lot of great information. I've looked at the schedule and like thinking I'm not sure I want to go to every one of them, and I won't get to, but I'll get to go to several of them. And so, Hauson, looking forward to seeing you. We don't always get to see each other in person, and it'll be so fun to do that. But thank you for your time today, and really appreciate the great insights that you bring about strategic foresight and innovation to our team and to other local governments around the country. So, any last words?
Yeah, I'm excited to connect. I feel like that's one of the most important things in life, right? Is just to be able to connect person to person. So I'm excited to see you, Mike. I'm excited to see everyone, the participants. I see you, Marin. Shout out Marin Packer. And yeah, that's it for me. Thank you.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much. Thank you to all of you that have joined us today, and always to Lisa Shook, who is working behind the scenes to make these possible. Hope that you will register. If you have any questions, certainly feel free to reach out to Howson or any of us here at SGR, and we will look forward to seeing